It is very important that you understand who the true Hebrews are, because that end-time prophecy, lots of it, surround these individuals.
This is the African Servant. Welcome to today's session in which we see Gentiles from all over the world acknowledging who the real biblical Israelites are. I hope you enjoy.
I am a Gentile. I know exactly who I am, but it seems to be the one group of people in the world that have been, by the rest of the world, tried to be dumbed down to the fact or completely erase their history from history is the African American people, so-called, that are scattered throughout the nations. Now please understand that not every single black person is a true Hebrew, but it is those that are under the curse of Deuteronomy 28. And you'll be able to tell who the true Hebrews are, and you may be one of them.
On 28/8/2016, God revealed this prophecy through Prophet Sadhu Sundar Selvaraj.
I see the Lord Jesus as a mighty lion walking around many territories, especially in Central Africa. From Kenya in the east, is walking around up to the western of Nigeria in the west. Even including Ghana, and then all the way up to Congo in the south. I see the Lion of Judah walking around that territory, marking out his territory, saying, "This is mine." He's going to lay his foundation there, lay his base there, and raise up his army from there. Mighty good things are going to take place from that region. The youth army in that region is going to rise up as a mighty warrior. Especially the Spirit of the Lord will come upon my dear daughters in that region. You are no more going to be downtrodden. You are no more going to be raped and abused physically. For the Lord God Himself will protect you as a lion. Time will delay no longer. Repent.
Now this is, for the most part, the general consensus of the largest people in Africa. You do have different groups like Dai in Uganda who aren't saying they're from the lost tribes, who have joined the people of Israel in the large amounts of numbers. One other location I'd like to, actually before I go into this other location, what's fascinating is, which I speak about, is the transatlantic slave trade. A large percentage of it actually came from Igbo territory. So these Igbo today in Nigeria were practicing Jews, numbering the 40 million people, with customs and traditions, doing circumcision on the 8th day, were the same exact people brought to the Americas on the transatlantic slave trade. Now if someone goes to Times Square in New York today, you'll see African Americans dressed in Israelite outfits and yelling at people saying, "You're not the real Jews, we're the real Jews." And so most people saying, "Well, you guys are kooky, you just made this whole thing up, you made up a religion and an identity." Actually, no, they are the blood descendants, most likely, of the people who, from Israel, were brought from Africa to America. So it's very fascinating.
It's said that once you've been to Africa, the continent is locked in your heart forever. The deep cultural heritage is unmistakable and unchanging. But the Lemba are something completely different. This tribe, who live in Zimbabwe and South Africa, claim they are direct descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. Is it possible they are who they say they are? Astonishingly, the facts support their miraculous oral tradition. In the 8th century BC, as noted by historians and the Bible in 1 Kings, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, captured its people, and dispersed them over Assyrian territory. Historians say some were killed, many were blended into other cultures, and others fled. Thus began the tradition of the lost tribes of Israel. Lemba oral tradition passed on through generations says they came from the rabbinical tribe, the Levites. The Lemba say they fled their original home and traveled to Senna in modern-day Yemen, where they became traders and craftsmen until they were forced to escape war or natural disaster. This drove the Lemba across the Red Sea to Africa. During their journey down the African continent, tradition says the Lemba built great cities of stone. This is where science comes in. Archaeologists have verified the existence of these cities. In addition, at these stone city sites, many artifacts have been discovered. These facts are a direct tie to the oral tradition handed down by generations of Lemba. Strict adherence to Jewish customs have been watched over by Lemba rabbis. Despite losing their original Torah on the journey from Israel to Zimbabwe, all oral teachings and traditions have been maintained. The same kind of oral teaching described in the Old Testament. Dietary laws, including kosher standards and restrictions on meat, are obeyed. Circumcision. Intermarriage has been strictly forbidden to preserve the culture and bloodline. Traditional rabbinical clothing is worn. In a place thousands of miles away from Israel, detached from all Jewish culture, these African Jews who call themselves original Hebrews are committed to their way of life that has been passed down generation to generation. Eventually, DNA testing advanced to the point where the Lemba's claims could be put to the scientific test. University of London scholar Dr. Tudor Parfit swabbed a cross-section of Lemba tribe members, and the results were astounding. The Y chromosome, passed on by many males in the population, proved to contain the Cohen modal haplotype. Among Jews, the CMH marker is most prevalent among Kohanim, or hereditary priests. In addition, this marker is one that only emanates from the Middle East. It is not found in any identifiable African groups. Even more astounding are the following stats. The CMH marker shows up in 50% of the Lemba testing. The same marker shows up only 3 to 5% of the time in the general Jewish population. What could be tradition lost in generations of translation has proven to be quite the opposite. Stories passed on generation after generation, backed up by scientific proof. The Lemba are indeed astonishing. Some claim they are one of the lost tribes of the original Israel. Others say they are another piece needed to assemble the puzzle of Jews scattered all over the world.
The Lord will again redeem for a second time. First time is Babylonian captivity. The second time in that day he will gather the remnant of his people, and he mentions Assyria, Egypt, Pathos, Cush, Elam, Shinar, Hamath, and the islands of the sea.
The wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha in the 5th chapter talks about how Jacob, how the heathen is going to be amazed and confounded when they realize that so-called black man is that chosen line.
Now, if I were to tell you that blacks, for as many centuries as whites have been superior, if you want, in the Western world, that for just as many centuries blacks were superior, you'd probably find that hard to believe. And you'd wonder how such a fact could be hidden. And the answer is, again, collusion. The whites wouldn't want to admit such a thing. And you'd wonder how such a fact could be hidden. And the answer is, again, collusion. The whites wouldn't want to admit such a thing, because whites like to feel superior and like to think that their superiority is somehow permanent, decreed by God. That's for blacks. If you look into the black civilizations that we're going to take a look at momentarily, you find something pretty interesting. You find that those civilizations actually arose as Jewish civilizations. You find that those civilizations actually arose as Jewish civilizations.
That time shall the present be brought unto the Lord of hosts, of a people scattered and peeled, and from a people terrible from their beginning hitherto, a nation meted out and trodden under foot, whose land the rivers have spoiled, to the place of the name of the Lord of hosts, the Mount Zion.
Over the centuries, scattered reports told of Jewish tribes living beyond the mythical Sambatyon River, of a remote African land inhabited by the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Over the centuries, scattered reports told of Jewish tribes living beyond the mythical Sambatyon River, of a remote African land inhabited by the 10 lost tribes of Israel.
Renaming people and places. Replace African names with Arabic and European names. This will disguise their true black identity.
Thank you for watching today's episode. I'll be producing a part 2 in a few days' time. See you later.